Welcome to the Takurazka Fan podcast where fans from around the world get together and chat and squee about Takurazka. This is Julie in Arizona, and with me today we have
Kate in Durham.
And for the first time joining us ever,
woo! Hi, I'm Tuck, and I'm in New Jersey.
Ooh, awesome. Well, we will all get to know you as we talk on the podcast together. But first, we're going to share our happy things. I'm going to go first. My happy thing is I got a big package this week. Definitely paid like $200, and like a lot of that was the shipping because most of it was just bromides, you know, like, so it wasn't actually that heavy. And but I also paid for one of those stupid pen lights from Delicia because I wanted it. So I have one now. And when I watch the Tokyo Raku stream, I can like sit at home with my pen light and it will be fun.
Adorable.
I love that.
Kate, what's your happy thing?
Surprisingly similar. I got a massive parcel, not massive, actually a tiny parcel from CD Japan last week. I ordered basically two CDs. One of Daimon and Kyuho's Many Thanks, the one duet CD they did for the Taidan, and surprisingly Silk Road. The CD for Silk Road is still on sale on CD Japan. Like, despite it having been 4 months longer than that. Yeah. So like I was like, oh.
Lucky.
They still have it in stock. I'm gonna get it.
Yeah, I heard that there was a big sale last month, and a bunch of us caught onto it, and a bunch of us missed it on CD Japan.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I missed that sale. Oop.
Boom. Yeah, probably for the best.
Yeah,
for me anyway. Not gonna speak for you, but yeah, for me, probably better that I just didn't spend all my money.
Oh, I feel that. It was probably for the best. My happy thing is that Kiki's promo picture for Promises got released. And I'm so excited.
Yes. Her, how would you describe her expression?
Ooh. I don't know, like, Kiki always looks great, so it's just, like, par for the course for me. I'm like, oh, she looks great!
She's perfect! I was gonna say sort of ochame, like, a little bit like, because, you know, the jam of the musical is like, oh, I let my bosses, like, use my apartment for meetups with ladies. Yeah. And so she's, like, holding this ring of keys and looking, like, you know, mischievous.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, like, she's scheming.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, it's hard because I'm like, oh, I really want to be excited. I really don't want my hopes to be dashed if they never let us see this, you know? Yeah. I will be so sad. So it's like, I'm excited, but I'm trying not to be excited at the same time.
I know that feel.
I feel that.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about Takurazka's influence in anime and manga, and also, if we get to it, Takurazka adaptations of anime and manga. But we're going to primarily focus on, especially I think because there's been a lot of hype recently about the new anime called Kageki Shoujo. It just means review girls, basically. Like, yeah. I don't know if people have translated it one way or the other, but
they translated to opera girl, which I really don't like.
Yeah, no, review girls is better.
Yeah.
Because Kageki does in fact mean opera, but like it's about the context of you're adapting the Takurazka review, obviously. So, sorry, I'm like being a nerd about translation.
Because nerd away, I do not, Japan.
Because we're going to be, we're going to be talking about Kage Shoujo. We wanted to give some warnings up front. One, that we probably will be mentioning spoilers. Most of us have seen most of the episodes. We may be discussing spoilers for other anime that comes up within the discussion. So we'll put spoiler warnings in the blog post as well. But then also, unsurprisingly, since Kage Shoujo is about sort of the music school, there are some trigger warnings. And so as we may discuss those things in the episode, going forward, trigger warning for eating disorder issues, bullying. Gosh, Tuck and Kate, what other trigger warnings would you say?
I guess
there's a little bit of sort of colorism when they talk about like being tan versus being pale.
That's a whole
thing.
I guess out of the context of music school, there's harassment, sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would also say childhood sexual abuse.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
For now.
So even if we don't specifically discuss those things, if you decide you want to go out and watch the anime, please, take care of yourself first and watch out for those triggers within the episodes. But yeah, do we want to talk about Kageki Shoujo first? Because
shall we start? Let's start with
as I said, I think to Tuck, I literally just binge watched all of them in the past 14 hours because I hadn't watched it. And I was like, oh shoot, we're going to do a podcast episode. I better watch the whole freaking thing. Oh my gosh. It's so cute. It's so cute. I know literally I was watching it and my wife was sitting next to me and not watching it. And she was like, let me guess. Is one of them a big, dumb, happy character and one of them is a short, angry character? And I was like, what? And she was like, that's the jam with all, I don't want to say lesbian anime, but stories that are about two young women. Those are the archetypes. Those are the stereotypes.
That's so true.
She's not wrong. I'll toss it off to one of you guys. Do you want to kind of give an overview of what the plot is like?
Yeah, so I can give the plot if you guys want.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the premise of Kage Shoujo is that it follows the first year students at Kyoka Academy. It's Kyoka Music School, very similar to the Takarazuka Music School. And it's their centennial year, and so this class is very important to the school's history, and we're following the characters. We have Sarasa Watanabe and Ai Narata. Those are our two protagonists, and they are just experiencing the trials and tribulations, the highs and lows of this all-girl music school, this environment, and they're making friends along the way, and also enhancing their skill, while also learning about each other and about themselves. And they have a great cast of characters around them. That's really what the premise of the show is about. Yeah,
absolutely. It's very high school anime, but at the same time, specifically about what it is like to be a music school student, which obviously take with a grain of salt. They definitely roll back a lot of the bullying and a lot of the strictness. It's not nearly as strict as it is in real life in this anime.
Yeah.
I thought about it and I was like, I'm sure that this anime has come out with secret or not so secret, the blessing of Hankyu, because can you imagine if you were a 12-year-old girl and you were watching this anime and it made you get interested in Takarazuka and made you either want to join Takarazuka or be a fan? Takarazuka wants people who will be fans for life and come to see the shows multiple times and spend all their money on Takarazuka. So it makes sense for this sort of anime to hype the company. So I think they want to put their best foot forward and not make it seem too terrible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And this is one of the first anime because it is very much grounded in, well, I won't say real life Takarazuka, but it's very much grounded in Takarazuka.
Close.
Because we've had right? We've had so many anime where people are oh, this bit reminds me of Takarazuka. And when Review Starlight came out, everyone thought that was going to be the closest thing we get to Takarazuka in an anime. But then Koka is literally just Takarazuka.
Yeah.
And they even
It
have
is.
like all of so far we've seen literally all of the biggest like all of the defining characteristics of like the troupe, right? We've had everything basically.
Yeah, so it's like a 2-year music school that, whips you into shape before you enter the Takarazuka proper. Koka, excuse me.
Okay.
And they have like 4 troops that are spring, summer, winter, fall.
Yes, actually sensibly named.
Sensibly named, very good. They have Senka and Tuck, I don't know if you said you didn't watch the latest episode, but basically 2 characters that are basically Todoroki Yu and Matsumoto Yuri.
Yes!
Which I thought was incredible and so cool. And as a lot of people might know, the top stars are like side characters because this is mainly about the girls who go to the music school. But the top star of Winter Troop is voiced by none other than our own OG Nanami Hiroki, aka Kai-chan, who I think so many of us have enjoyed her OG career so much. And so it's very, very cool to hear her voice in this anime.
Very much.
Oh my gosh. When I would watch the episode and they mentioned Senka, I was yelling. I was like, oh my gosh, there's Senka in here!
Okay.
I was like so curious if they were going to mention them or not. So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they went all out. I mean, it's literally just Senka. Like, they explain what Senka is. Yeah. Because, as you do, you have, like, your bubbly-headed main character who's like, I just decided to join Takarazuka on a whim. Or, like, I don't really know that much about Takarazuka. Please teach me everything, which also teaches the audience. So, Sarasa, which, by the way, I love the name Sarasa. There was a 92nd class Musumeyaku called Tomomi Sarasa, who I love very much. She has a beautiful, gorgeous voice. So I think it's very cute that the main character is called Sarasa. But she's like, oh, tell me about Senka. I don't know about it, so then they can like explain it to the rest of the audience.
I'm really happy that they included Senka because it's I guess in a musical school setting, it is not as like I guess glamorous as all of the other stuff. So I didn't think they would mention them, but they did. And we had a Todoroki Yu character, and I was like, yes!
And they mentioned it, I feel like, very respectfully, They're like, they're the pros within the pros. They're the, treasured upperclassmen. The way that I think of them in my heart, which, like, it's one of those things that you're like, oh, the young people nowadays, I don't know if they really appreciate people in Senka or whatever. And I feel like that attitude is a little bit in the anime itself, where the person who's basically Matsumoto Yuri, I totally forgot what her character name is. She's like, oh, I didn't know that young people watch such old shows, because she's like one of the kids who's like fangirling. Oh, I loved you back in the day when you were a Thomas Miyako or whatever. And she's like, oh, that's so cool. Young people still watch my stuff. And it was just really sweet. Like, it was, this anime is made with love. It is made by people who love Takarazuka.
Yes. And speaking of which, shall we talk about some of the very obvious / not actually that obvious direct references?
Let's do it.
Because there were, first of all, in the second to most recent episode, there was a frame where the fangirl character said, I'll let you borrow my library. And they actually showed a screenshot of her shelf,
DVDs.
Which had on it loads of references to actual shows. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think I saw the Po Clan, Lost Angel, which was, like, I was not expecting to see Lost Angel, because that's Suzukaze Mayo?
Nice.
That was the pre-Elizabeth, right?
Angel Smile, Devil's Tears.
That one. And remind me, what else did we see? We had the big Romeo and Juliet.
They kept referencing Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Phantom.
Yes, Phantom. Me and My Girl, I think I saw on the shelf.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Anyway, we probably should put up a screenshot of that particular thing.
Yeah, I mean...
Sorry, go on.
Good. Well, the thing that they do the Daiundokai, the great sports meet, and literally just someone screen grabbed like the sports festival and just drew their characters over it. Like people in like Discord and Twitter were just like posting screenshots of how they literally just traced over it. Everyone's in the exact same poses and everything.
Yep.
Blew my mind.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was referencing the 2014 sports festival. Oh my gosh, I noticed that when I watched the episode. I was like, wait, is that?
They just went for it. Yeah, they were just like, when I first became a fan, everyone was obsessed with the 2004 sports meet, and so the Hanagumi top star being carried out via throne, palanquin, whatever you want to call it, like, is a sort of time-honored tradition that has gone through at least 3 generations. I think Yansan, Osa, and Mirio. And so to see it in the musical, or in the anime, is cool. And also, the fact that they just traced right over it. Incredible.
So funny. There was also another thing which I found kind of funny, which was when Sarasa was showing the copy of Romeo and Juliet that I keep forgetting her name. Someone lent her. And you zoom in on the actresses' names.
Yes.
I can't remember what Romeo's name was, but I think Juliet's name was Arisa Hitomi.
No.
Yes, go check. I think the kanji for the sa bit is just slightly different, but I think it's still read as Arisa Hitomi. And I just find that extremely funny.
That's incredible. Because, like, I just watched it all really fast, so I didn't, take the time to, like, screen grab. I've seen other people post things, but that's amazing.
It's wild. I was like, oh, someone in the team's a fan, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all I really remember is that it's Winter Troop that did within the story.
Yes.
It's like when they first arrive, I think Winter Troop is doing Romeo and Juliet on stage, and then like within the course of the show, it moves through about 6 months of them being in school, and she's like, I have the DVD of Winter Troop if you want to watch it, but I didn't take a close look at it.
But yeah,
and of course, the Romeo and Juliet that they're putting on is much more like classic Shakespeare Romeo and Juliet, like to distinguish it from the French musical. The way their costumes are and the way they translate the lines, it's very much the original Shakespeare, not like pop French musical.
Not the hoodies and
LL Bean. What other things did you catch, Tuck? Do you have anything else that like caught your attention?
So, because I watch it, like, week by week, I watch it weekly, so, like, I'll notice something when I watch it, and then, like, I totally forget about it.
Valid.
That's fair.
Yeah, because, so when they did the sports festival, they, like, introduced a bunch of people by name, and there wasn't anything that, like, super jumped out at me of like, oh, that name is a direct ripoff of like such and such other people. But like, of course, they all sounded like very Takarazuka names, which I thought was very fun. Honestly, like, without pointing to a direct reference of this is this, it is though, isn't it? I think
very much is.
Very much.
The twins storyline?
Yes, I was going to say that, yeah.
I have a lot of feelings about this. I don't know if you guys, I shouldn't say you don't understand, but like, I became a fan in 2006 when Ranchan and Rei Rei debuted, and I cottoned on to Ranchan at like Ken 3, and I was obsessed with her, and I wasn't really thinking about, oh, such and such, one of them's going to become top Musumeyaku and one of them isn't. That wasn't even on my radar, you know? I was just, like, really obsessed with Ranchan. And then, like, suddenly she got transferred to Hanagumi and, like, became top Musumeyaku, what felt to me really fast. Like, it wasn't, like, a slow buildup of, like, oh, she's been moved to this other troop. She's clearly being groomed for the next top Musumeyaku. She just, like, was all of a sudden. And so it's a whole thing. It's very bittersweet to see them playing out this storyline where one of the twin girls actually passed the exam and the other twin sister didn't. And so the one who passed deferred her acceptance another year so that her sister could try again and get into music school. And it's just really heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking.
Yeah. And they talk about that bunny girl scene, and I was reminded of one of the TCA specials. I can't remember which year it was, but it was definitely like a few years before Ranchan became top Musumeyaku. But they came out in the middle of, I think might have been to introduce like the next segment. I remember Rei was wearing a purple lilac kind of tutu, yeah. And Ranchan was wearing the exact same tutu but in pink. And they just stood like in mirror image to each other and started singing. I just remembered that, and I was like, oh, I get that. That's
no.
So cute.
If you can figure out which TCA special that was, let me know because I want to watch it.
I remember that very much because it's like they said, they're mirror images of each other and they both look so cute, and it's so good. I love both of them so much.
My feelings. Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about the other characters in the anime and sort of like what's their deal, each of them?
Yeah. I really love, like, I know this show is supposed to make you like love Sadasa, but like I truly love her because I think what makes me love her so much is her open enthusiasm, but also her, like, the fact that she's not afraid to be confused. And I love the fact that she is willing to try so hard, even though she's only there because she wants to play Oscar in Berubara. You can still see that she cares about every role that she wants to portray. I think that was very evident in the episode where their drama teacher makes them play out the same scene from Romeo and Juliet, and she's playing Tybalt. And so the fact that she's willing to study other CNs and she's willing to give her everything in this role, even though it's not the ideal role that she wants to portray, I really admire that about her. I do think there was one thing I was worried about with this show was the fact that, like, I feel like Sadasa's route could have gone two ways, where she was just permanently happy, and we never see her struggle, or if the show is going to knock her down a peg in a way that will be extremely unsatisfying, and it just feels harsh. But I think that episode where the teacher was honest with her, in a way that some people might consider brutal, but I didn't think so. He was honest, and he was like,
he told her the truth, he told her the truth, like, at a time when she's still in music school and has a lot to still learn.
Yeah, and I think in understanding how, like, oh, when you're 15, 16, like, that type of criticism does hurt, especially from someone that you do respect. So to see her reaction and how it did alter her perspective and it altered her idea of her talent and her skill, but it also now pushed her to do better. I just love that. But I think one character, and I feel like one character that kind of gets overlooked sometimes is Ai-chan, because you get the one, at least in the show, you get, like,
I love her.
It's like the show, you get, like, that one episode, like 1 or 2 episodes about her, and they're like, all right, her arc is done. But
I mean, it seems clear that
she's getting better, and she's trying to help out everyone else. And I'm like, oh yes.
No, she has her own journey that she's going on for sure. Like each episode is kind of like introducing us to another one of the characters and about their backstory and stuff. But even though each one of them, like I said, the episode about the twins and the episode about the what was her name, Kaoru, who is like the granddaughter of like a famous top Musumeyaku from days gone by. Even though each one of them has their episode, I do feel like Ai-chan continues to make progress as we learn about these other characters.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So just to repeat, Sarasa is kind of like the main character who is like really tall, bubbly, girl who doesn't know that much about Takarazuka but is really enthusiastic. And then Ai-chan is like a former idol from like a, AKB type pop girl group who, quote unquote, was made to graduate early and hates men, is traumatized by men, and wants to join Takarazuka literally to get away from men. And that is a very real feel. I feel her a lot. And honestly, the whole episode with her and like the quote unquote creepy guy was like one expressing how girls need to be allowed to not smile all the time, and girls need to be allowed to just be sad and have depression and whatever. And that's what connected her with that fanboy as well, is that he looked at her and saw someone who's sad and someone who doesn't put on a face and pretend to be happy. And that's what made him become her fan. And I found it really interesting that instead of going the simple route of, oh, he's a creepy fanboy and he stalks her and like something bad happens, they actually redeemed the fanboy as well, which is really important for Takarazuka fans who are literally going through the same things that guy is going through, you know? Do you guys feel me?
I feel that. And I think Ai-chan's arc, well, multiple arcs, but I would just say like overarching arc, this is also a true testament to the writers of the show. The pacing. I feel like sometimes, like certain plot lines, specifically like Ai-chan's, whether it be her past, in the idol group, her childhood, and even her growing friendship with Sarasa, those could sometimes in other shoujo or slice of life anime, they can be melodramatic to the point of unbelievable. But the writers are masters of pacing and timing, and to see the gradual progression of Ai-chan's openness in her behavior rather than a complete 180, I really appreciate. And the fact that the audience is taking time with her to grow.
I agree with you. Like, evidenced by the fact that I've cried over every episode. like no, maybe not every episode, but like it tells the story at a good pace. I totally agree with you.
And I'm glad that her kind of cold and distantness does not just become a gimmick. Like she is genuinely warming up.
No, they're really telling
that.
Telling a story about real people. Telling it's really great. Without like getting too heavy, Ai-chan's storyline is the one with like abuse, childhood abuse and things like that. And that sucks. It sucks to watch that, even though it's the kind of thing that does happen in real life and very well could be something that people in Takarazuka have dealt with just as much as anybody in any of our lives who is assigned female at birth might have been sexually assaulted sometime in their life. I think everyone knows that phrase, that like everyone knows someone who has experienced sexual assault, if not themselves. So yeah, it's
very well handled, and
yes. Like I said, I think they definitely take a light touch to the bullying. They don't even go as hard on the sexual assault as they could have, which good, because I don't really want to watch that anyway.
No.
Like, I don't want to watch that play out. But yeah, it's like, oh, there's like one mean girl or something. You know? Like, it's
There's
not
one
nearly
obvious villain, and that was it. I was like, okay, this is what we're going for.
Yeah, it's not nearly as bad as it is in real life. I'm obviously.
This is a storyline, and because the manga, the English translation of the manga are coming out slowly. Volume 2 comes out, I think, later this month. But nice. I really want to know about Sawa's backstory, especially because she is a huge Kyoka fan. She's the one who has like all the material.
Sawa Satomi? What's her name? I forget.
Sawa Sugimoto.
And so yeah, Sawa, we haven't got her character story yet.
And no. I
think she's my favorite.
I love Sawa because like
she's a bad girl.
Her love for Koga, I really feel that. But I really want to know if there will ever be, and this is like wishful thinking, if there will ever be like a plot line of her talking about like the fan culture and sometimes like the parasocial nature.
That is something that they haven't really addressed.
Yeah, and so I wonder if there will be like a parasocial kind of like aspect to her to like her plot, to her arc and things like that, because I would love that exploration, especially because she is there. And it's like, oh, you think you know these people, or it's like you have such deep admiration for these CNs and for the history of the company. And I would just love to see her growth and also confronting that as well.
Yes, it's really interesting because we're just barely getting there. That the senpai tachi and the top stars are like telling Sarasa, and by extension the rest of them, your job is to be a dream person on and off stage, and your job is to show the audience what they want to see. You can put on a persona even in your offstage life, I guess is kind of the point. So, like, interesting if they play that out further. And like you were saying, play that out with Sawa's character, where maybe she has some kind of revelation about, oh, this person that I admired isn't really the person that I thought they were off stage, or like something like that.
And I think that's what I mean, I haven't read ahead in the manga, but I feel like that's what they're going for every single character. It's what we initially know them as. They will kind of break that. So for someone who's such a big fan, I think the arc, oh God, what's the word? Anyway, it makes sense for them to write her to be then disillusioned by the things that she actually sees and stuff. Anyway, that's anime kind of prediction. We're going into prediction territory.
Well, let's be real. I mean, it's not like they're the most original characters out there. Each of them was some kind of archetype. So yeah.
That being said, can I just mention a fun thing about watching Kageki Shoujo as a Takarazuka fan is that your understanding of the anime is going to be very different from some of your friends who's just watching it as an anime.
Yes.
I cannot imagine what it's like to watch it as not a Takarazuka fan. Why?
Because my friends were going on about, I and Sarah said they're going to become, the top star pair. And I'm just sitting there going,
no, girl.
In the same year. There's no way. And they're like, what do you mean they're in the same year? They can't be I'm like, oh, there's a whole thing.
I literally have thought the same thing, where I was like, oh, I hope that anime, like, stops, like, after school or stops after the first couple years, because after that, like, they might be Shinko pairs together, but after that they're super not going to be top stars together.
No.
Are they going to keep the realism quote unquote, or are they just going to go full on anime? We don't know. And there's so many things as Takarazuka fan you see coming up on the horizon, like, they're going to decide first of all whether they want to be Musume Yaku or Tokayaku, and they're going to get their stage names. They're going to get the culture festival. What is that called? The culture festival.
The Bunkasai. Yeah,
no, that one.
I think Bunkasai is better translated as like recital, like your end of school recital.
Yeah.
What's the bunkasai going to be like? Because the first part of the anime, they made sure to like make it clear a lot of the first year is just training, like not doing a lot of like putting on a school play and like acting and like testing their chops. Like they make a big deal out of that fact that like the sensei, Ando sensei, gives them special permission to like put on a little scene. But that's not the way things are done usually. So there's a lot still to discover for the characters about like when they actually start putting on performances.
Right? And as fans, that's just, you see all of the plot points coming up, but as a non-fan, you're like, oh, I wonder what this
I have no idea what's going to happen.
It's
so
like,
wild.
Oh, I know what's going to come
literally
up.
can't imagine what that feels like. I wanted to mention the twins again really fast. Their names are Chika and Chiaki, which is freaking adorable. But there's a moment where they show the two twin girls with their mom when they were, kids watching a DVD or VHS at home, and their mom says something like, "Oh, she's like a goddess come down from heaven," and like it just melted my heart because like that's how it feels watching like a really amazing top Musumeyaku, and it's really cool to see people fangirling over Musumeyaku, with Otokuyaku, which I feel like the whole show does really well. They fangirl both really hard.
Yes.
Everyone makes a point to like mention, the top Otokuyaku are like the most important stars, but I feel like the characters themselves and the writers of the anime really also love Musumeyaku.
Yes, and I am actually kind of curious about whether this kind of clash between Otokuyaku and Musumeyaku is ever going to come up, because I would love for the anime to actually tackle this thing.
It would be super interesting.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know whether... Yeah. There was that one line when the obvious blonde girl villain person came out. Yes. That's her name. Thank you. And her friend or rival the second year, what's her name?
Can't remember.
Yeah. And anyway, she said, something
Fuji?
like, only someone like her could be a true Musumeyaku because she's sly and backstabby. There was a line like that.
There was a line like that.
Right? I was really confused about that. Yeah. I was like, I mean, what that implies.
I get it in the sense that they super haven't touched on this very much, but it's in the sense of like Musumeyaku, I don't know. In a way, you could say it's even more cutthroat than Otokuyaku, because like Otokuyaku get more chances to shine. Even if they don't become top star, some of them can go on to Senka, some of them still may get Val leads and Shinko leads and all this stuff. And like obviously Musumeyaku get those things too, but it's always lesser. It's always like in the shadow of the Otokuyaku. Yeah. So like it is very cutthroat because Musumeyaku don't get a lot of chances to shine, so it's very interesting that they took that approach.
I want to see them deal with Takarazuka sexism. I just want someone.
That's the thing, right? It's like, will they or won't they?
I feel like the show sometimes, and this is like a mild pet peeve of mine, when shows you like winking nods to certain things that the audience might bring up, and so I think they're kind of alluding, I don't know if it's a winking nod or a pure allusion to something, or like pure foreshadowing to something later, because we have like a limited idea of what's going on, but I know that there were certain things that they did bring up that, like, I guess, I don't want to call them like unmentionables, but like, I guess like open secrets, if you will, that some people don't want to acknowledge, or some fans or things like that don't want to acknowledge. I know, like, the idea that they have to have, like, pale skin and, like, the colorism of it all.
So that was an episode.
So uncomfortable.
Yeah, so that they addressed this in the episode Kaoru, right? That's Kaoru. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that, Tuck?
Yeah, and so, like, especially as a Black fan, watching that and just being a fan of Takarazuka for so long and knowing how, like, I feel like colorism, like, those types of things get, like, swept under the rug, or sometimes it's not always visible, because I guess, like, there's no outright color statements that are made, but this idea of, like, the emphasis of paleness, the emphasis of thinness, very much, they're very much, like, Eurocentric beauty standards that are being replicated on stage, being replicated in this culture, and, and I feel like sometimes it's not always acknowledged in, I guess, like, it's not always acknowledged in various ways, but I think the show kind of, like, mentioning that, or, like, alluding to, like, this need to be pale, like, Kaoru's, like, part of Kaoru's arc, in her past, like, she always walked with an umbrella, she could never get tan, she had to stay pale, and it's like, well, why is that? And especially, like, I have not personally been affected by colorism because I am, like, on the medium to lighter end. So for me, like, watching that, I'm like, ooh. But I'm happy that they did mention that because...
Yeah, they could have just not mentioned it.
They could have just not mentioned it. And I think there are probably some other maybe unsavory or uncomfortable aspects of Takarazuka's history that they may bring up later or that they may comment on later. And, like, I had mixed feelings about it watching it because I'm like, I'm glad you brought it up. But I'm also like, we have to have a conversation about...
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, in Takarazuka itself, you often will see stars, like, when they show pictures of themselves as, like, teenagers or children or whatever, and they're like, ha ha ha, look at me, I got so tan over that one summer, and then, like, my prep school teacher scolded me for getting so tan, you know, and they say it in, like, a really joking way.
Yeah, and so, like, this idea to maintain Eurocentric beauty standards, like the thinness, like the pale alabaster skin.
Well, and I mean, I think that colorism isn't Eurocentric. It's like every culture, somehow it seeps in this, like, colorism because day laborers are out in the sun getting tan, and
because people are just assholes.
And because people are just assholes. But, like, aristocrats historically would stay indoors all the time and be able to have pale skin, and people who work in the rice fields or whatever would have so darker tones of skin.
It's also an extremely classist idea as
classist.
well.
That's the word I was looking for.
And I wonder, and that's another thing too. Are we going to talk about class in this show?
Yes, actually, that's really interesting that kind of hasn't come up yet because Sarasa's character is very like, oh, my grandpa makes tatami mats, like they're very poor, and then they kind of touch on the fact that, like, Ai-chan and the one we were just talking about, Kaoru, come from, like, acting families, so, like, it's assumed that they have money, but they don't super touch on it as much as they could.
Yeah, and I wonder if they're going to get into the classism, because I feel like that is something as well.
Yeah, because the truth is that it's very much a privileged kids game, and that most people who get into Takarazuka are there because their parents had the money to put them through prep school and get them to those lessons and all of that. It's not really like, you know, a young ingenue from Midwest USA and she goes to New York to be a big star, you know. That's a 1 in 100 kind of scenario.
Yeah, and they
1 in a million.
They also kind of, like, hinted at the hierarchy and, like, this kind of, like, assumed meritocracy, but it's like, is it really a meritocracy?
No. Right. Which is why, again, I feel like if it's, like, low-key being okayed by Hankyu, they're definitely maybe going to touch on some things, and maybe some things super keep under the rug. Like you said, it's not really a meritocracy. a lot of it does have to do with, do you have sponsors? Do you have rich people backing you?
Yeah.
I feel like the class wealth issue is probably the least likely to turn up in the anime. I feel like they'll tackle like Takarazuka sexism before they'll do classism, because I feel like that's the one big thing that fans really do not want to think about.
Yeah, it's true, because we look at all these people who are so talented, and we want to believe that they got there just by talent and just by merit, and the truth is that they often didn't. Speaking of hard topics, well, I was going to say, like, going from one hard topic to another hard topic, we did mention at the beginning of the episode trigger warnings. So I think definitely one of the most uncomfortable and triggering things is to watch girls having eating disorders and using disordered eating to lose weight. And they do touch on that with at least one character, and it's hard. It sucks to watch it. And honestly, what really freaked me out was the way that the sensei Gata reacted to it. Because, you know, the singing teacher was like, you were too harsh on her, to like the dance teacher. And the dance teacher didn't seem as apologetic as I would have hoped. Because here's the thing. In real life, I think the teachers are very harsh on them. But it really sucks to watch a story in which an adult is telling children lose weight or else, and is basically unapologetic about the fact that she yelled at a character to lose weight, and then is like, oh, but we have to stop her from binging and purging. Like, you started this.
The call is coming from inside the house.
What did you say?
And like, the call is definitely coming from inside the house, and and I think what makes it so infuriating watching it is that the dance teacher is like, there's a method to my madness. There is a reason why I'm this hard on Yamada's
never
weight.
Makes it okay.
And it doesn't make it okay. And the fact that she tries to excuse it by saying, well, they're going to be scrutinized publicly, so they need to get used to the criticism now because it might affect them later and they may not know how to deal with it. And while you can understand that to an extent, because they are going to be public figures very soon, it's also like, there is a way to talk to, especially a child, there's a way to talk to anyone about handling fame and publicity and public scrutiny in a way that's not detrimental to that person's mental and physical well-being.
Exactly. So honestly, like, even though they didn't, like, play it up very much, it's literally one of the scariest things in the entire 10 episodes that I've watched, is that the adults, just like in real life, don't super help them. But that's because the adults fail them. And so, like, the real question is, how hard is the anime going to go on that? Probably not very far. But it is absolutely terrifying that the dance teacher is like, my methods are, you know, are acceptable, excusable, when they're super not.
Right. And this is also where I'm going to thank the writers again, and also the directors of this episode, because I think there are two ways this episode could have been visually portrayed, and also narratively portrayed, in which it could have gone to very special episode territory. Very melodramatic, to the point of unbelievable. And the audience is like, this is just like hokey, and we're not going to empathize or sympathize in any way. But then there could have been another way where it's completely exploitative, and you can definitely see where the writers and directors are really treating this issue with care and with empathy, because they know that it's wrong. And even in the manga, the way that the mangaka portrays the events, like, they're also aware that this is a very serious situation and a very harmful one that Yamada has been placed in. And I think it's really interesting how this episode moves. And I really kind of hope that this plot line gets addressed again, because, right, I mean, you have so many characters.
It's not really fixed.
Exactly, it's not fixed, but a lot of, and I know I've read some comments from different viewers where they're like, oh, like, will this ever come back? Or it's like, oh, this feels like a very special episode kind of ending where the teacher is like, you're amazing. But it's like, no, this problem wasn't solved because she got that validation from her singing teacher at that one time. And I think, and we don't, again, we have limited translations of the manga, and we don't know where the anime is going to go from here, but I don't think her story is finished. I think Yamada's still very much struggling, and I think the show is very honest about how harmful and detrimental this type of treatment from adults can be.
Yes. And I think that the other reason that the door is not closed on this is because actually they haven't really addressed Ai-chan's disordered eating and, like, recognize the fact that, like, just because they showed her doing it in the past does not mean she's not doing it now. It doesn't mean that can't come up later as a storyline. Or maybe she's not doing it now, but maybe something triggering would happen that would put her back to harmful, disordered eating ways. That very much could happen. Like, to me, Ai-chan is like a ticking time bomb.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a ticking time bomb of trauma. And like Sarasa-chan has the very, like, very lightest touch little, like, oh, someone told me that I couldn't do my dream. Like, you know, it's super, like, the smallest of sads. But, like, people like Yamada and Ai-chan have, like, much more deep-seated, like, traumatic things that could come back to haunt them later. And let's be honest, it's good to have a mix of both, because otherwise your anime is going to be way too heavy and way too, like, hard to watch.
Yes.
So yeah, I fully agree with you, Tuck, that like they handled it in a way that was, like, not too saccharine and very special episode, but also not too dark, so that, like, it wasn't too hard for the audience to watch.
I just want good things to happen.
Yeah, so as we got about halfway through, I was like, yeah, we're just going to take this entire episode to talk about Kage Shoujo, because there's so much to talk about. But obviously I want to talk about more, like, lighthearted things so that we can wrap this up. What are some fun bits that you all liked?
Ooh,
Go for it.
Oh, I love Sawa's, like, little, like, fangirl freak out when she meets all the top stars.
Yep, the nosebleed.
The nosebleed, and then they're asking her, they're like, oh, and it's like, oh, like, how is Sawa doing? And then she's like, I think I managed. And she has, like, a giant nosebleed.
So, like, they, the storyline is all around how the big sports meet is happening, and the all four top stars just, like, happen to be in, like, a room of the music school, which is, like, crazy. I don't know if that would really happen, but, like, they walk in and it's like a brilliant light hits their eyes and they're blinded by all of these top stars. And and so, like, her reaction of just, like, they all, like, are exactly the way you think TMS students are trained, and they're like, oh, sorry for intruding, and they're, like, very on point to make sure that they're very deferential and respectful. But then afterwards she has this gigantic nosebleed. So good. Oh man, I thought the kabuki stuff was really interesting with Sarasa's backstory. Mm-hmm. So Sarasa's backstory is that she's the illegitimate child of a kabuki actor?
Question mark? We don't
question
know.
Mark. It's heavily rumored, but, like, they haven't. But I mean, all signs point to, right? Because she magically doesn't have parents. She lives with her grandfather and her grandmother before her grandmother passed away. And, like, so, I mean, where are her parents otherwise? They literally never explained it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's really interesting for them to touch upon the way kabuki the way that kabuki upholds the tradition of kabuki is very different from the approach of Takuratsuka.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they bring in kind of through Ai's character the idol industry as well. So
Yes.
it's like three big entertainment industry. It was like, okay, that's a fun juxtaposition I've never seen done before, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very true to life in the sense that a lot of people who enter Takuratsuka do come from some kind of arts entertainment background.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I also find it quite...
So-and-so's mother was a musumeyaku or a top musumeyaku or whatever.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, I also find it quite funny that how they, funny? Is that even the right word? I don't know how I feel about this, but how they spent 2 episodes focusing on Sarasa's kind of, not romantic, but, quote-unquote boyfriend. And then to focus on Hoshino's, Kaoru's
boyfriend.
First crush or something like that. I'm just curious to see how much of the outside school perspective they're going to do, because it's very weird thinking about the Takarazuans life outside of Takarazuka, and I feel like they might be doing...
Yeah, I'm trying to think how I feel about this, because when I think about it, what they've portrayed is an extremely otome, extremely innocent young maiden approach to boyfriend.
Yes.
Like, oh, we just grew up as childhood friends, so I sort of just I call him my boyfriend. Like, Sarasa is so naive in the way she treats, what was his name? Akiyo?
Something like that.
Akiya, something. And then the little crush that Kaoru has is, they never even kissed. They hold hands, So it's very, very innocent young maiden, which plays into Takuratsuka's aesthetic, instead of being like, oh, these 2 teenagers were having massive sex before. It feels so unsumida to even say that. We all know what high school is really like, right? Everybody isn't just pure and innocent and touching hands and blushing. Silly.
Yep. Teenagers are horny.
Teenagers are horny.
So, yeah. Extremely.
Especially,
but on the kind of, I don't know, with the route they're trying to go with Sarasa and I was like, I do not want either of them to have a boyfriend. That kind of freaks me out, because I was ready for this to be a slightly cutesy. I know it's not girls' love, and I'm not. I don't see them as a couple. I don't want to immediately ship the 2 main characters. But it's just, I don't like to think of these girls as having a crush outside of. I don't know. It is very weird how they chose to spend 2 episodes consecutively talking about that. But yeah,
it's interesting because they are teenagers, and they are all also characters in an anime, and it's it's our that's what we do, right? Is we watch media and we ship people together. And so it's if they're cognates for real children in the real Takuratsuka music school, it feels a little bit weird to ship them. But at the same time, you want them to have a crush on each other. It's very cute. But at the same time, you want their friend-mance to be pure and sweet. So that's always the dilemma, isn't it? Yes.
I think something I noticed about the endings, the endings keep alluding to specific couples. So of course you have Ai-chan and Sarasa, but then you also have Yamada and Sawa.
I have noticed that.
And I was like,
right?
What are we getting here?
Maybe it's a reference to things that have happened in the manga, but we don't know about it yet.
Maybe.
Maybe we'll see them become better friends later.
I hope the endings are not pairings, because or else we have the twins.
The twins.
I like anime, but not that kind of anime.
No.
Yeah, no. Won't touch that one with a 10-foot pole. The twin story really interests me, and obviously that would be a super gross direction for them to go.
Oh, yeah. I really want to see Yamada and Sawa's relationship just based off the ending. I know one of the Blu-ray box sets, one of the DVDs has them on the cover as well, and I'm like,
Interesting.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about before. It would be really cute if like we got past music school and got into like if the journey took us all the way through like Shinkos, and then like Ai-chan goes on to become top Musumeyaku somewhere, and like Sarasa has to like ganbatte and get like Otoko Yakui enough to like be by her side or something, like Ohana and Wow Yoka or something, where like someday I will be your partner 5 partners later. That would be really adorable. But actually, you guys were kind of talking about before, discussing the point at which they sort of decide whether they want to be Otokoyaku or Musumeyaku, and like I don't think it's 100% clear that Ai-chan is definitely going to be a Musumeyaku. Isn't it kind of iffy?
Yeah, no, I get you, because she didn't have a goal until up to like 2 episodes ago, to be fair.
Yeah.
So, but I think like as an anime, I feel like they have to go with her being a Musumeyaku, or else there's just too much competition on the Otokoyaku route.
Yeah.
So I feel like both Kaoru and
Sarasa
Sarasa are very like big characters.
Also, I think it's like a really big like it's like a detail that I've noticed, like, but also Ai-chan growing up her hair.
Yeah.
In the opening or whatever, you can see her hair's longer. So, like, I think that's like a spoiler indicating that she will go for Musumeyaku.
And also that she's grown. I'm so proud of her. I just want good things to happen to all of these kids.
Oh, I know. You don't want anything harmful or bad to happen to them ever again.
No, but of course something will.
I mean, the drama can't keep going unless dramatic things continue to happen.
And I hope we haven't scared away any of our listeners from, like, Takanazuka is not a horrible world. Like,
it is and it isn't. I mean, it is in the way that all Broadway, all music, acting, entertainment, it all has a dark side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Takanazuka is not alone in that.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right.
Oh, I feel like we should do another episode sometime talking about all of the other pop culture.
It was really fun, honestly, to just spend this episode talking just about Kageki Shoujo, because it's so prescient, so in the forefront of everyone's minds, because it's coming out right now.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're hitting a good spot to wrap up on. I want to challenge you one more time to tell me something that like made you squee in one of the episodes, or like something that you really liked.
Oh, I'm gonna go first. This like literally 4 frames of animation where when I was kind of peeking through the curtain to see what Sarasa got for her birthday or something like that, and I can't remember what happened, but basically I think either Sarasa turned around or I think she was noticed, and then she did this cutest little jump into the air and back into her bed, and there were just like 4 frames of animation where she looked like a fox. I don't know. It was extremely funny, and
where she got the figure thing for her birthday.
That was so sweet.
It's really adorable. We didn't really mention this at all. How Sarasa's character is a big anime nerd.
Yes.
She comes from like a kabuki background, so there is like stage, but they haven't even fully plumbed the depths of what an anime nerd she is.
Oh, no.
And the fact that she got 2 anime figures for her birthday is, like, so freaking cute.
But yeah, that's my thing.
Nice. Tuck, what about you?
Okay, so this moment made me cry, but, like, happy tears.
Totally.
It is when Ai-chan asks to be friends with Sarasa.
She spends the entire episode trying to call her Sarasa instead of Watanabe. It's really hard.
And I was like, just seeing the beginning of their friendship, I was just like, I love these 2 so much. And, the moment
super crying.
Just tears.
Just tears. Well, Tuck, I know that you said you hadn't watched the most recent episode, so I'll try not to spoil it too much. But like in the end of the relay race, where like a bad thing happens and then like the top star helps Sarasa, I was screaming my head off because Sarasa learns that like part of the dream world is showing the audience what they want to see at any given moment, on stage or off. and she helps a moment be created to show the audience what they want to see. That's something romantic and beautiful, and everyone crying and screaming. And I literally screamed because like it was exactly like the perfect choice for that moment. It was really great.
Oh, I have not seen that episode. But
oh my gosh! Okay, so both of you have to watch it. Yes. Well, like I said, I'm kind of not surprised that we ended up spending the entire time talking about Kageki Shoujo, but that's awesome because it gives us another episode that we can spend talking about other anime and manga that have Takarazuka references, and then anime that have been adapted into Takarazuka shows. So, listeners, let us know in the comments like what shows you'd like us to talk about next time, because we will probably spend another episode talking about it. And tell us your thoughts about Kage Shoujo if you've watched it. And hopefully we can all squee together again sometime soon.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Many thanks to Michael B. and the Arcanum String Quartet for their wonderful arrangement of Sumire no Hana Sakugoro. And thank you, listeners, for enjoying our podcast.